Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be back at SEMIC 2025. This is my fourth SEMIC so far. And I just want to see a show of hands. Who has been to at least 4 SEMIC editions? Okay. A few. So welcome, and welcome to the newcomers to SEMIC as well. I'm sure that you're going to have a great experience, and I'll see you again next year as well. Well, this morning, we're going to discuss about interoperability, simplification, and competitiveness. And I'm here with 4 esteemed panelists. Panelists, thank you very much for accepting our invitation today. We have with us Veronica Gaffey, the Director-General in charge of digital services at the European Commission. Our host, Lars Bønløkke, Deputy Director-General at the Danish Digital Agency. Then Emilija, Stojmenova. Emilija, you are now an associate professor at the University of Ljubljana. At the University of Ljubljana, and you were minister in charge of digitalization in Slovenia. And last but not least, we have Correia, a director at the Agency for Technological Reform of the State in Portugal. So welcome once again, and as I was saying earlier, this morning, we're going to try to make the link between interoperability, simplification, and competitiveness. We will also talk a little bit about AI, because yes, you cannot have one session today without AI, but also because I think interoperability and AI are so intertwined, so it makes a lot of sense to talk about these two and how they can reinforce each other. Now, for those of you in the audience, and also for those of you that are watching us online, please send us your questions via Slido. The panelists get to see your questions on the screen in front of us. So if you have a really burning questions that you would like your panelists to take and answer, please do so. The more movement we have on Slido, the better. The better we can actually sense what's important for you. So if everyone is ready, I think we can get started. To begin with, I have a set of warm-up questions, the same for all of you, and then we'll change the rules of the game as we move through the session. So to begin with, I'd like you to introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about your work, how it relates to interoperability, and in particular, how it actually makes a contribution to make our governments more efficient and our public services better for citizens and businesses. And then I'm interested in hearing from you how you're actually implementing interoperability in your own administrations, how you're implementing the Interoperable Europe Act, so our flagship regulation, and whether or not you already see an impact in terms of making the government more efficient and in terms of reducing administrative burden. And last but not least, I know a lot of questions for part 1, but I also like you to tell us about one interoperability project that really made a difference in your administration. So I'd like to start with you, Veronica, please.
Okay, God, you put a lot of questions together there, so you did, Leontina. Okay, for myself, you know, I'm Director-General of Digital Services at the Commission, which means I'm the Chief Information Officer of the European Commission, which means my organisation drives the digital transformation of the administration, taking care that the digital landscape in which the Commission operates is robust, resilient, secure, etc. And we support digital-ready policy making across the Commission. I'm also chair of the Interoperable Europe Board, which works with member states to drive together the future of our Interoperable Europe agenda. These give me a wide perspective on the challenges of digitalization in the public sector. I'm not from a technical background, so I'm always asking that we speak in language that everyone can understand and that we can deliver technology that can enhance policy making and delivery. And I think this is relevant for the debate today because I said it earlier on, but interoperability is no longer a purely technical aspiration. It is a strategic enabler of a modern, efficient and citizen-centric public administration. So in the whole interoperability debate, it is no longer acceptable that technical experts sit in a corner and discuss technicalities. That's not where we are at the moment. We're moving out moving from interoperability being nice to have into the operational backbone for the public sector. So it's not just digital transformation, it's also administrative transformation. And this is something that we are very passionate about in Digit. Maybe my one example, I would talk about under the Interoperable Europe Act, interoperability is now a default requirement for the Commission. And from 2025, the European Commission performs a digital check for all major legislative proposals it puts forward. And these are scrutinized to assess digital relevance and practicality, so looking at data, solutions and interoperability, and these assessments are made available online after the proposals are adopted by the Commission. And if I can give one example, just very recently, and I won't mention the regulation and I won't mention the sector, but just recently we had an example of a regulation which was adopted during the last Commission, and it required a certain reporting requirement. And I remember in my previous job when I was chair of the Regulatory Scrutiny Board, a former colleague there said to me recently, "But don't you remember that proposal? We looked at the impact assessment and we said, this is not technically feasible. They have not really considered what the implications of this proposal are in digital terms." And we put that in our opinion, and we were ignored. But you know, the truth comes to pass in the end. And then I had a visit from the Director-General, and the assumptions that they had made in terms of the reporting requirements under this regulation, they had underestimated by several thousand%. So the digital tool they thought they would use, reusing something else that was already there, absolutely couldn't work. So they actually had to come up with a revision of the regulation, which of course has created a political debate because people are thinking this is a weakening of the requirement in the regulation, but in fact the digital aspect was not reflected on properly in the first point. So I think that's a really practical example of the digital aspect and interoperability being really important. I'll stop there.
Thanks a lot, Veronica. And I think you really made the point in connecting digital and administrative transformation. And from there, if we look at the example you gave, yes, it's so important that we think of digital when we start drafting laws, and this is something that we usually do much more later down the line, and it's not working. And the example that you gave, it's really telling us that unless we cater for digital early on, we're really in trouble later on when we have to implement, enforce our policies. So thank you, Veronica, for that very cautionary tale. Lars, I'll go to you next.
Yes, thank you very much. And first of all, being Danish, as Adam already said, it's such a pleasure to see so many people here today in Forum here in Copenhagen. It makes us Danish people very proud. And myself, as you said, my name is Lars Bønløkke. I'm Deputy Director-General at the Danish Agency for Digital Government. And some of my responsibilities are, of course, interoperability and also implementing the digital rulebook from the European Union. So it's the AI Act, the Data Act, DGA, DSA, and so on. And for me, coherence and avoiding fragmentation in those rules is also interoperability. Maybe I will come back to that. So also to answer your questions, I would say, first of all, interoperability, it can easily be a very high-flying or fluffy term, but in reality it's also something that happens every day. And it is important because it can reduce administrative burdens. It can make government more effective, and it does so by ensuring that data, technical systems, legal interpretations are the same across authorities. It makes it possible for authorities to work together and to systems to work together. So, of course, first and foremost, it makes government more effective in that way. And it also has the potential to reduce friction in the interplay with rest of society, with companies. I think you had the example of companies not have to report the same data over and over again. This is interoperability, and these are some of the examples that interoperability can actually reduce burdens and increase efficiency. And in Denmark, we approach interoperability on a three-tiered approach. First of all, at the legal level, we try to ensure that laws are interoperable and digital ready. I'll come back to that in a moment. But also at the semantic level, we have a common infrastructure, national interoperability framework with common standards, guidance for authorities when they make IT systems. And then thirdly, but maybe most importantly, at the infrastructure level. In Denmark, as Adam already said, we are working not only on making different systems interoperable, but we also work with common infrastructure components. And I think that is actually the most effective way or efficient way to ensure interoperability, by having one common component. And then to also try to answer and give an example of on how we do this in Denmark at the legal level, and I understand that yesterday there was a lot of interest in this. In Denmark, we have the digital ready legislation program, and we have had that since 2018, so it's actually been working for quite a long time. And the idea is to make sure that essential digital considerations are addressed early in the lawmaking process, to make implementation easier and to increase the digital readiness of laws. And at our agency, we screen all legislation to help this process along. And one simple example, and this is also underlines that interoperability is also very specific everyday things. In a law, maybe there was an example that said 6 months for something, but maybe it's more precise to say 180 days. So this is something that has been caught in the in this process, and the reason is 6 months can be interpreted differently. If February is one of those months, it's less days, and this is very concrete example of 180 days being more digital ready. Yeah, I think that's it for now for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lars, and also thank you for serving such an inspiration on Digital Ready. We actually copied your great Digital Ready framework and adapted it for the European Commission. I do hope that today we will also hear about other ideas that we could scale up and implement at European level as well. But you're serving as a great example for all of us. Thank you for that, and thank you for being so open to share your experience with us. I think I will go next to you, Luis. So we go from Denmark to Portugal.
A long way. Well, good morning, everybody. It's always great to see a crowded room full of people that have common passions and today this is a really great crowd. So my name is Luis. I run a group of inspired people trying to operate everything that runs on digital at the agency for digital there in Portugal. So we run from open data to digital identification, also interoperability, and citizenship programs and participation also. What we do, being the competent authority for Interoperability Act also, is to try to engage some of the entities that may have this potential to externalize the services, building from the internal purpose and thinking about how it can become Europe-wide interest. We do that. Lots of it we do based on the National Interoperability Framework, which has now about 250 entities already connected. We deployed 80 services there, but the amazing thing is that it becomes a matrix of and the networking living being, because we have 80 services, 250 entities, and so right now we have a reuse of over 700 services that connect entities, entity to entity, entities to business also, and this leads me to our example. One thing that we are able to do right now is to intermediate the simple services that one entity has to get data from another one. We do the orchestration level also, where we can, for example, check if a student has been registered last year in a specific region of the country and apply social benefits to that student accordingly. But also, and our favorite, to promote services that are automated and that are proactive. This is the biggest challenge, and I believe this is a real pillar to build the trust from citizens. So if you have your government doing your services for you, it really builds trust, because once you give your authentication, your consent for the use of your data, you should feel that information is flowing, processes are happening, and interoperability is existing. Okay, but the last months we had one approach to this about simplification, and in order to serve also a company that everybody knows in Europe, and Revolut was trying to open the Portuguese operation there. Until 1 month ago, every Portuguese citizen that wanted to have a bank account with Revolut had an account, an IBAN from Lithuania. And we talked with the Revolut and also with the Portuguese banking regulator. And they are, at this moment, doing the migration of accounts and asking people to give consent with a digital ID. A citizen gives consent to access his personal information. And the amazing thing about that is that you give your permission, and in less than 10 minutes, Revolut sends you an email. Congratulations, you have now a Portuguese bank account. And it's really an amazing thing that we feel that the interoperability power to make possible.
Thanks a lot, Luis. And it's amazing to hear. And thank you for bringing that example as well, because that shows how interoperability is not only a public sector thing, but it really spans towards all sectors and the private sector too. And I also hear that all this was possible because you had a great implementation of your national interoperability framework based on the European one, and as you have in Denmark as well. So I really start to see the results, the value add of the work that we've been doing together for many, many years. Thank you so much for that. We're going to be closing this round with you, Emilija, please.
Thank you so much, Leontina. And first, I would like to really congratulate you, the Digi team, and the Danish Presidency for this amazing conference. Yesterday, we heard so many inspiring examples coming from the different countries, solutions that can be used in our own state. So thank you a lot for the organization of this amazing event. So you already introduced me as a former Minister of Digital Transformation of Slovenia. I'm currently an associate professor at the University of Ljubljana, but I'm also the chair of the informal expert group that is working on the update of the next generation interoperability framework. So you know, the ones that are coming from the States, we tend to criticize the solutions, ideas coming from the European Commission, and I was the lucky one to get the opportunity, what I've been criticizing earlier, now have the chance to improve it, how I think. So this is what I'm currently doing, and then coming back to interoperability in Slovenia. In Slovenia, we have basically two strategies when it comes to digital transformation. The first one is the strategy of digital public services, and the second one is the umbrella strategy, Digital Slovenia 2030. In both these strategies, interoperability is taken as the core principle when it comes to digital transformation of everything in our country. So interoperability, it means a lot to us. And the way how we achieve, or the way how we want to achieve interoperability is quite similar to what Rainer was explaining yesterday with Estonia. We have a very centralized coordination and then decentralized implementation. So the Ministry of Digital Transformation is the one that is coordinating interoperability, that is also responsible for the national interoperability framework. And then the other agencies, ministries, and so on, they're the ones who are responsible to implement it in their own work. You were asking us also about our favorite interoperability solution. I'm very sorry, I cannot select one only, but two, if that is still okay. So the first one, this is very subjective opinion, so if you ask another Slovenian, it can be different solution. But one of my favorite ones is the EID. We see how also the citizens understand what it is to have interoperability in your country, because we wanted to use the same card, the same ID for different services. Again, something we've been seeing yesterday from many other states. The biggest adoption we observed was when the EID was also introduced as health insurance ID. And of course, when the digital certificate is there and so on. So the people started really using the solutions provided by the government. What we are working on now is something like you were mentioning, and also in Denmark, I think as well, to combine the solutions provided by the government also for the private sector as well. Because these solutions will be adopted only when people are going to use them every day. It will become their habit. My other favorite solution is the TREI. This is a data exchange platform that we are using in our country for many years now. But we saw that also other ministries, so other agencies, when they find out how easy they can achieve the digital transformation of their services and how easy the data exchange can be achieved, then it was easier to convince them to go digital, so to use the digital first approach. So these are my main two.
Thank you, Emilija. And once again, thank you for actually accepting to lead this expert group that looks into the future of the European interoperability framework. And we count on people who, like you who have implemented interoperability in practice. And now you can tell us what we need to do to make this framework evolve so that it takes into account artificial intelligence, sovereignty, and it's really fit for purpose for today's challenges. So thank you for that. For the next round, it will be a little bit simpler, so you will each get a question, no more 10 questions into one. But I will change the topic slightly. So I did mention AI earlier. I think it is important to create the link between interoperability and AI, so the next question will be about that. So I will start with you, Luis, this time. I know that you in Portugal, you've already deployed digital assistants powered by artificial intelligence. And I'm interested in your telling us what was your journey to build such assistants? Are people using it, your citizens and businesses? And has interoperability played a role in your building this digital assistants based on AI? Please.
Okay, so we couldn't do it without interoperability. Well, it started in 2023. We deployed the first version of an AI assistant that was able to interact in Portuguese, explaining public services. So it ran against the content of the digital catalog, the digital services catalog, and some of the other public services. So it can give assistance to people that want to know how and where to execute some of the services. So the project got an upgrade by the end of last year, and it's already turning a year now. So last year, the big upgrade there was we came from one language and we jumped to 12 languages using the RAG framework and making getting the ability of getting information from the catalog every time a new service is in the catalog of services. The engine runs up the script and starts answering in 12 languages about those services. It's very interesting because we were doing a study of which languages to deploy to respond also to migration, the migration topic that we see now in Portugal, that we are having lots of people going to public services, asking information. They are not always English fluent, and it made really difficult to interact with everyone. So we deployed that in 12 languages, and after 1 year, we have an average of 13,000 conversations per month. There are top 6 languages that interact there in the AI assistant. So in this first year, it already gave explanation and information for about 150,000 conversations. What we know now about this technology, and it is a very interesting input for now, is that we deployed the system with the ability of interacting in text, but also interacting in voice-to-speech. And also you can actually activate an avatar. And you have the lip sync thing and all of that. What we see now, after these 150,000 interactions, is that people don't, only 6% of the people activate the avatar. So this is the type of audience that we have there is more the type of instant interaction. So you place your answer, you place your question by voice or text. You get your information. You can ask the assistant to read it out loud in your own language. We've tried that with native speakers, and they all confirm that it's completely fluent. So this information right now, it's very, very important for this new year that we are starting now, to adjust the level of investment that we have done in infrastructure that made the avatar possible. Okay, so we will for certain adjust that, but it has been a great journey.
Great story, Luis, and good luck with building up these digital assistants. I also note that you mentioned several times that these assistants wouldn't work if you didn't have a catalog of services, and that's where the interoperability element comes so strongly. So really emphasizing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lars, I think I'll go to you next. And I think now we're going to dive a little bit into the legal aspects of AI. We know that Denmark seeks to align its national digital initiatives with the principles of the AI Act and the Interoperable Europe Act. How do you see the relationship between these two legislations, the AI Act and the Interoperable Europe Act? And does it affect in any way your planned IT projects and digital initiatives? Please.
Thank you. Maybe before I answer the question concretely, I think the point that I also mentioned in the beginning with the digital rulebook overall is a very good point to start with, because as everyone knows, over the last 5 or 10 years or so, new legislation on digitization has come to life from across the EU, whether it's, of course, the GDPR, the Data Act, the DGA, DMA, DSA, AI Act, Interoperable Europe Act, NIS2, and so on. And for themselves, every legal act is important and has their own very important logic in order to ensure transparency and security and so on. But it also brings a very important effort for all of us, and maybe especially authorities who have to implement these legislations, which is to ensure that they are coherent and that we have common guidance, and in order to make it easy to implement in society, both for government and also for companies. And in my view, this is also interoperability, so maybe at the legal level, to ensure that this very comprehensive digital rulebook is easy to grasp and implement especially for SMEs, but also for public administration. So I think this is a very important point, and this also is true for the AI Act. And if we go to maybe answer your question more concretely, I would say it is inherent fundamentally in the AI Act and how it's designed. You could say interoperability is in its core understood that the goal of the AI Act is to bring forward a legal framework which is harmonized across EU, making it. Of course, we have a common criteria on how to implement high-risk AI systems, which can be quite complex and difficult, but they are important, and they are the same across the EU. And in my view, this is also in order to ensure interoperability between countries and also within countries. and we have the AI board, which meets frequently in Brussels to talk about how can we strengthen this harmonization in practice. And the Interoperable Europe Act, in my view, reflects that same logic, which is common approaches, common standards, shared building blocks to make cross-border digital cooperation possible. So in that way, the AI Act and the Interoperable Europe Act have the same logic, and they signal a shift, you could say. In Europe is where Europe is moving from isolated national solutions toward collective European capabilities. And of course, these are big words, but I think the AI Act and the Interoperable Europe Act combined provides the basis, foundation for this to be true when you talk about implementation of AI systems in Europe.
Thanks, Lars. And well, you know, Veronica, you said it this morning. So did Adam, and so did our executive vice president Henna Virkkunen. Interoperability is not only about technical things. And I like a lot the fact that you brought in these legal aspects, which are really important. And I think a lot of the barriers are not really technical, because if there were, we have enough bright engineers to solve them. But when the issues are legal, then that's where things get a lot more difficult to sort them out. And things like the Interoperable Europe Act and the AI Act, they play a really important role to create more legal certainty and create the foundation for legal interoperability in Europe. Then I will go next to you, Emilija, as you're sitting next to me. We know that Slovenia is doing very well in terms of AI adoption by enterprises, so congratulations for that. And you've also told us that you're working on improving the Interoperable Europe framework, but I'm not going to spoil the surprise. I know you have a panel and you're going to share the details on that work later on. So instead, I wanted to ask you, how do you think that interoperability can support the AI adoption? And maybe learning from Slovenia doing so well, can you tell us how things have happened in Slovenia and how interoperability can support AI adoption by enterprises? Please.
Thank you so much. So yes, we are happy that in Slovenia we have so many good SMEs that adopted artificial intelligence. Lars mentioned Denmark is a small country, and Slovenia is a really small country, and you need to be successful if you want to come somewhere. But when it comes to interoperability and AI, I think it is really important to understand that there is no AI without interoperability. Interoperability is the foundation. Without interoperability, we cannot speak about artificial intelligence. We are in Denmark now, so I would like to use one Danish metaphor. Lego is from Denmark. You know, the Lego bricks, they have these universal connectors, and because of these universal connectors, you can connect the pieces regardless of which set they are coming from. And it's the same with interoperability and AI. You need the connectors. The bricks, without the connectors, they're just a colorful piece of plastic. So it's the same with artificial intelligence. If you don't have the standards, if you don't have the data, the connections to share with them, it is another technology. And I don't want to fall into the trap that we are speaking about interoperability as a supporting environment for a bright new technology, artificial intelligence. No, interoperability is really the foundation to use this new technology. Another thing that I really don't want to fall into a trap, another trap, is to reduce artificial intelligence to generative AI only. So artificial intelligence as a technology has such a great potential, but not only the large language models. So we have the machine learning, we have predictive analytics, and so on and so on. So it is really important when we are thinking about the apply AI strategy and so on, that we do not forget that artificial intelligence is not just chatbots that we can introduce them. in the public sector. This is also what we are trying to do with the next generation EIF, and absolutely interoperability and artificial intelligence go hand in hand together, but don't minimize our role with the interoperability when we are speaking about artificial intelligence. If you remember just a few years ago when we were speaking about blockchain was trendy technology at that time, and again we were speaking about, okay, how interoperability can help blockchain. So it is really important we have the interoperability and then we start building up on it.
Thanks, thanks, Emilija, and thanks for bringing up the Lego metaphor. I think what's powerful with the Lego blocks is not only that you have these connectors that work the same way, but with a bucket of Legos, you can create pretty much anything you want. So for me, that means innovation. So really, interoperability fuels innovation because we can create, we can mix and match and deliver so much more than if we were stuck into only one predefined track to follow. And I think that's really, really powerful. So thank you for reminding us of that. And you mentioned apply AI strategy, so then I will move to Veronica and ask Veronica about the apply AI strategy, which is this ambitious communication that the Commission adopted earlier this year. This communication also features a chapter for the public sector, so AI in the public sector. So Veronica, my question for you is, what does this bring for public administrations? What should they expect? And then you're also the Chief Information Officer of the European Commission. So I'm wondering, how is the Commission doing in terms of adopting AI? Please.
Thank you, Leonora. I think artificial intelligence is now a strategic capability for public administration. It's not an optional innovation. And I think we've talked about the technical side, we've talked about the legal side, but I think now we're talking about the people side and the skills of the people involved and their take-up of AI. With the Apply AI strategy, the Commission has committed to making Europe's public sector an ethical, trustworthy and effective user of AI. But of course, we're building on all the work that is being done across the European Union. And our role is to ensure the public administrations have the tools, skills, governance and infrastructure necessary, but building on the expertise that is there. So through the strategy, we're committed to equipping the public sector with secure infrastructure, clear governance and guidelines, updated European interoperability framework with the help of Emilija and colleagues, strong skills and communities, and shared solutions that avoid duplication. What we have done inside the Commission, we have deployed a secure Commission-hosted AI platform and generative AI services for staff. The uptake has been enthusiastic. We have 15,000 users across policy DGs in the Commission now using our in-house GPT at EC, and that's to draft, analyse, translate and structure information, always under strict usage rules. As I said, we've learned that the technology is as good as it is being used, so we need to continuously invest to make sure that our people have the skills to use this technology at its greatest potential. And there where I think maybe we need to invest, what we're at GPT at EC, we are still in the pilot phase. We're moving towards the end of that pilot phase where we will really say, based on these 15,000 users who are using it regularly and the feedback we get, we will be able to more clearly say, right, these are the rules, this is how you must use it. Where I see an area where we probably need to invest a little bit more is in training our senior managers in the Commission in how they both encourage people to use AI, but encourage people under their responsibility to use AI responsibly, and how to, as a senior manager, critically assess what is coming out of our AI systems, because I think that is something that we really need to underline, that the AI produces something, but we always have to have the human dimension which examines it before we move forward. So it's an ongoing process and a never-ending process, I think. So our ambition is to ensure that every public administration in Europe can leverage AI confidently, responsibly and effectively for the benefit of citizens and society. And we're committed to share the tools and learnings that we have developed for the Commission with public administrations across Europe. So that's our approach.
Thank you, Veronica, and I can attest that GPT-ATC works very well. I'm a happy, responsible user of GPT-ATC, and as you're saying, part of our work now is to make sure that the tools we're using at the Commission would be also put at the disposal of member states, so that you too, for those of you that haven't done it, so you can implement AI to make your services better and also to make your administration work more efficiently. Now I think slowly but surely we're going to the last part of the panel today. I was actually hoping to see the Slido questions on the screen, so I don't know if that's still possible. In any case, if we can't see the questions from Slido, I do have a backup question prepared, so I'm not letting you go that easily. Well, this morning Sasha asked a few questions, and one of these questions was whether there are many challenges ahead of us, whether these challenges are tricky or easy to deal with. And I saw a lot of red. I saw that people do see a lot of challenges ahead of us, and they think that addressing these challenges is not going to be particularly easy. So my question to you all is, what is the main barrier or the main challenge that you see for achieving an interoperable Europe, and what do we need to do more effectively to overcome this barrier? So for this round, I will start with you, Lars. Please share your takeaways for the session and also main barrier and action to overcome it, please.
The main barrier, of course, I think the goal, as we also talked about, is to make Europe more competitive and have more effective government and companies more competitive. And as I also mentioned and others mentioned, interoperability plays a key part in this. But I think, and when we're also talking to different local authorities or companies, the main barrier at the moment in order to increase efforts to increase interoperability and effectiveness and competitiveness is there are too many rules, or at least that is how people see it, and it's difficult to comply with the overarching totality of the rules. So I think the efforts on fixing that, so to say, is at least twofold. First of all, as I also mentioned before, I think we should all, as authorities and also in Europe, as member states, try to make rules harmonized, make common guidance within rules such as the AI Act, but also across, to make it easy to see what do we have to do as an authority or SME. And the other part of the answer is what the Commission has launched from a few days ago, the digital omnibus. Try to see where can we actually make amendments, how can we increase the effectiveness and simplicity of the rules. So that would be my short answer.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Lars. Veronica, I think we'll go to you next.
Okay. Let's not talk about barriers. Let's talk about challenges, huh? Because a barrier suggests we can't overcome it. But I think there are challenges there, but we can overcome them. For me, the biggest one is that each administration in Europe has its own specificities, runs under its own acquis, and this means that, well, we're talking about legal and semantical barriers or challenges. So one solution comes under the interoperability framework and the interoperability solutions. If we can recognize common denominators, I think we're on a way to overcome these challenges. So the Interoperable Europe Board will soon adopt the first batch of interoperable solutions. And I think that's an important step to build a set of foundations which are well-recognized building blocks. And if there's a will in the public administrations across Europe to go down this route, we will be able to say, well, here are things that have worked in certain circumstances. So I think this is something that can really help us overcome this barrier or challenge.
Thank you, Veronica. And yes, we look forward to the Interoperable Europe Board adopting the first batch of Interoperable Europe solution, which would happen very, very soon, actually next week.
Next week.
In a matter of days. Okay, we have Slido back on, so Emilija and Luis, you can also pick up on some of the questions that you see on Slido, but if not, you can also pick up on the question that I've asked, so challenges and what is the best way to address these challenges to create an interoperable Europe. So we'll go with you, Emilija, and then Luis, you'll be closing the panel today. Please, Emilija.
Thanks a lot. First, I would like to ask, am I allowed also to ask the people to raise the cards?
Of course, please.
Or is this for the moderator only?
No. Go ahead.
So I want to ask you a very simple question. Do you think interoperability is very important? If you think, yes.
It's good.
Unanimity.
Excellent. So we all think that interoperability is very important, but we are convincing ourselves. We're already convinced. We need to go somewhere else. We need to go and show the value of interoperability to the rest of the people. So the biggest challenge is that not everyone understands what interoperability is. Not everyone can even spell interoperability. And we are thinking about technical, semantical, organizational, legal interoperability, something very, I don't want to deal with it. So it's even, for example, at our ministry, we were so fond of interoperability. But when I was speaking to my colleagues ministers, they didn't care. They wanted to have the solutions very fast. They were always like, just like Marta was saying yesterday in Poland, just give us the money, we will provide the solution, and we will think about interoperability later on. Or, for example, we had the projects funded by the recovery funds. We have till the mid of 2026, we need to develop the solution, and then we will think about interoperability. So this is the biggest challenge, that people don't understand what interoperability is. They see it as an additional burden. They see it as an additional cost. And this is also why I liked yesterday the Finnish example. They don't explain what is the cost of what is the cost reduction of interoperability, but they say this will cost so much more if we don't have interoperability built in our solutions. So for me, my biggest challenge is that we are speaking to ourselves, to the convinced ones. All these messages that we are sharing here today, they should go out of Digit. They should go out of the ministries of digital transformation and so on, because this is the only way how people will see the real value of the interoperability. My views. Luis can talk about the standards.
Before we go to Luis, Emilija, you're so right. I think we often chatted amongst ourselves whether we should change interoperability for another word. But then, this is why we organize SEMIC conference. And this is why this event grows bigger and bigger every year, because we really want to get out of this echo chamber and preach not only to the converted, but preach to a bigger crowd. And I'm really happy to see a full room today, because I think we're doing well in stepping out and not only talking amongst ourselves, experts, but also bringing other people that can have a really important role in making things happen. And with that, I give the floor to Luis to close the panel today, please.
I was just listening to Emilija, and just recall that Rita yesterday from Finland, she has one slide talking about the way you spell interoperability, and we also have a slide where we have that type of joke there. But the punchline there is that interoperability is the ability to operate together. So you have effectively to sit both sides at the same table. Those who believe, okay, with those that will have to see the right result of this, the savings that they can achieve. And there is a question here that how can the private sector best contribute to drive interoperability? We have discussions with the private sector where they explain the needs, which type of services the government should provide to the private sector also, and that's very insightful, that discussion. But if you think about these challenges, and also recalling Volodymyr from Ukraine yesterday mentioned that you want to hear about the challenge? Try to get in a room in the middle of the war and seeing that general there with lots of stars in his uniform, and in the middle of the war, you have to ask him, I need you to take 5 minutes for us to talk about the digitalization and interoperability. That's how huge this is. In this digitalization era, we have to think about what we are providing to people in terms of savings, in terms of trust, in terms of security. If you make this analogy to the private sector, the private sector often measures results on net profits, on net values. Okay, our net value here should be saving and trust. If we achieve those type of savings that is able to give citizens the amount of trust in the government and the public services, you can think about the OOTS not as the once only technical struggle, but the once only technical success. And that's what we're trying to achieve together. We have to operate together.
Oh, that's really great to hear. And you make me think of one thing. We have the luxury of being here today. We have a little bit of time in our hands, and we have some resources, not a lot, but we do have these resources to think about digitalization, to think about interoperability, while others don't. And I think we should use this time and resources we have in our hands to fast-track our initiatives, to fast-track digitalization and the take-up of interoperability, and anticipate a moment when we won't have this time or resources in our hands, and we need to be ready for that moment. So on that note, I'd like to thank our panelists once again. Let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you, everyone. And I give the stage back to Sasha. Thank you very much.